Hey, how's it going? This is John O'Brien from the Keystone Contractors Association, and seated to my right is Marcus Vega. I'm seated with Marcus today because we're going to get to know him because he is the 2026 Thomas George Community Labor Champion of the Year winner.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. So that was awarded and announced at the 2026 Construction Celebration. It was a great event. Um, a lot of people were there, and Marcus made some comments, and we should have recorded those comments, but we didn't. So I'm having to sit down with him today, so everyone gets to know who he is. But just real quick, as far as the award, it was named after Thomas George, who was the executive director of the Keystone Contractors Association in the 70s and most of the 80s. He was just a great gentleman. I didn't know him personally, but from what I hear, a great gentleman and a great friend of labor. He was on a few different labor apprenticeship committees. Friendly to deal with in negotiations. Great to deal with. Just labor talked very very highly of him, and they respected him a lot. And when it comes to construction, we do a lot of good in the community. And I suggested about 10 years ago that KCA should have some sort of community service award. And the KCA board members said, we're successful because of labor. We need to do more to promote labor and promote the good that labor does. So we created this Thomas George Labor Champion Award. And we are thrilled and excited to honor this year's champion, Marcus. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Now, who is Marcus?
Marcus, not a super complicated person. I grew up in an inner city, and now you're familiar with my background since this is our second attempt at this. Like I was saying, we traveled the Bible Beltway down south and visited different churches and kind of lived in different areas, Texas and Florida for a little bit. And I learned to have respect for my elders, definitely down there. And everybody was Mr. and ma'am and yes, sir.
Yep.
And, so that was a good thing. And, it kind of stuck with me. We finally came back to the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area, and stayed here pretty much the rest of my life.
There you go.
We had a opportunity to become caretakers for the Sylvan Heights building, and that was actually my very first commercial construction job. So I went from waterproofing basements to framing and hanging drywall at the formerly known Sylvan Heights building, turned into the YWCA.
Awesome.
And Mr. Strawbridge gave me an opportunity, and I was grateful. He bought tools for me and everything, and on the condition that we would all pay him back. And there came a point where I had approached him and talked to him about reimbursing him for the tools that he had bought me. And to my surprise, he told me, Marcus, you're going to go a long way with those tools, and I know you're the one that's going to stick this out. So those tools were on me, and I don't need you to pay me back.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful to see somebody doing something with them. So
that speaks to your character, and your work ethic.
Yeah.
And,
I didn't think that at the time, but
looking back, yeah.
So eventually, it's anywhere from like 6 to 8 of us were recruited through union, the Carpenters Union. We did a job. My first job was a motel, I think, in the Eisenhower Boulevard area. And
Hanging drywall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hanging drywall, and people just couldn't fathom, having the dues on their checks, and the deductions. And I went from making, I think at the time I was making $10 an hour with
Yeah.
Strawbridge to $18 an
Yeah.
hour. So it was like a significant pay increase for
Yeah.
me, and I didn't care if they took more out.
Yeah.
I knew my take home was bigger.
Yeah.
And also, I tried to tell them, there's a retirement involved, and there's an annuity and healthcare benefits, and and things have just gotten better
Hmm.
over time. So, out of
That's
all of
important for a
us,
family.
of
Yeah.
course it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And you have to see the big picture. You can't just live for now.
Hmm.
You know, I out of all of us that tried the union, I was the only one that stuck it out. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
So, um, I got a lot of on the job training, throughout the years, in the last, almost 30 years in the union, where I've done a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
And I'm grateful for the training and the work experience that I've gotten through them, and the fact that I have a retirement and an annuity
Yeah.
and some health care. It comes with layoffs and stuff like that, but, that's why I try to work harder than most
Yeah.
people, because I wanted a home.
Yeah.
So my first home in the union was with Mr. George Irwin,
Hmm.
through working for Irwin Associates, and we worked everywhere. And I was probably with them for close to 12 years. And eventually the doors closed, and so I needed another home.
Hmm.
Along came the Cancer Center and Penn Installations in Hershey, and I think I spent close to 2.5 years on that project alone. And I never forget Howard coming out to the job, and just thanking the men,
Hmm.
or the crew, I should say.
Yeah.
And how rare is that for an
Yeah.
owner to visit the job, and
That's cool.
just and it spoke volumes to his character.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, this is a company I want to work for.
Yeah.
um, so it wasn't immediately that I had a home with them, but eventually I started driving to State College, and I did that for a couple years, and to the point where I think that I proved my worth,
Hmm.
and I finally felt like I had a home.
Hmm.
uh, and they were trying to venture into this area. I think one of the superintendents moved down here, and he was the one that was mentioned at the KCA celebration that gave me an opportunity. And his name is Nick Dunn, and I'll never
Yeah.
forget it.
Nice.
As work picked up, and we had multiple jobs in this area, they needed some leadership, and asked if I would step up. And we talked about this before. Like, I never saw myself as the foreman kind of a guy. I
Hmm.
always had some like leadership, and kind of like a clown in some ways.
Hmm.
I'm pretty good at making people laugh
Yeah.
sometimes. So, um, in fact, I told a joke of the day
Hmm.
at every lunch
Nice.
for about a year or a year and a half in State College. And it was funny because when I first went to State College to work for Penn, everyone was like kind of like off eating their lunches in like different areas. And
No unity, no
yeah, there
teamwork.
wasn't.
Yeah.
And whoever was eating around me usually ended up laughing at lunch.
Yeah.
And then, like the next day or 2 days later, it'd be like two more guys. And then, every one of us were laughing.
Yeah.
And then the next couple days after that, there'd be like two or three more guys.
Yeah.
And eventually we had a huge lunchroom.
Nice. That's
and
cool.
and so I, being like the company clown, I guess, I honestly told a joke of the day
I love it.
every lunch. And one of our superintendents would come in just for the joke of the day. Like he normally didn't eat lunch with us, but he would sit down for like the last 8 minutes
Yeah.
of our lunch break. All right, let's hear it.
Yeah.
So, and I eventually ran out of jokes, of
Yeah.
course, but I'd find one, on like some kind of joke
Yeah.
website, and if it made me laugh and was super
Uh,
funny, I almost like instantly memorized it.
yeah. That's cool.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
did that for a long
Yeah.
time. Eventually, I became a foreman for these guys for Penn, and we did a ton of work at Hershey Med Center, and I was there for a lot of years. Um, but like all things, sometimes good things come to an end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when the work dried up, I really could not see myself driving to State College. It was, it's 3 hours on the road a day. It's time away from your family. It's time away from, my yard work and things that I need to do at home.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we had a puppy, and it got to a point where it wasn't feasible for me to do the traveling, and I was kind of hoping that I would find some work in the area. I would have loved for to been Penn, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. So I called Mr. Howard Bernstein, and him and I have become friends over the
Yeah.
years. And I think the only way that he could probably be friends with someone that he works for is he could tell that over the years that I had his best interest and the company's best interest at heart,
Yeah.
and there was no BS about me. And I after a while, I would like to think that he's seen that,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, we still maintain a friendship to this day. Um, but as the work dried up, I asked Mr. Howard if I could use him as a job reference, and that was when he said, I can do better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And he invited me to the KCA celebration in 2025, where I met with Jeff Smith,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Jeff Smith, with Alexander. And like I was saying, I caught him off guard because I'm being introduced by Howard, from Penn Installations. And he's saying, how much of a great, foreman and guy
Mm-hmm.
that I am. And then in the next breath, I asked Mr. Jeff, "Hey, are you hiring?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I caught him by surprise.
Yeah.
But you know, reached out to some people that evening during the celebration, not knowing really what would become of
Mm-hmm.
the conversation and the networking that I was doing and the introductions that I had through Howard. Um, but I definitely was praying for some work and some close to home
Yeah.
work, something that
Definitely.
would keep me busy.
Did,
So the next day, I started to send my resume out.
mm-hmm.
Uh, email. I think I emailed Midstate, and I'd worked with them at the hospital, so I knew some people there. And
Yeah.
I emailed Mr. Jeff Smith with Alexander and a couple other companies. Not knowing where, what would become of it.
Yeah.
And it was later on that afternoon. Jeff had reached out and said that he received my email and that he had a conversation with Howard
Mm-hmm.
about me and my character and my work ethic, and was thinking about giving me an opportunity and asked if I would interview. So
Nice.
the very next day, I interviewed in Elizabethtown at the Catherine Hershey Project and did a follow-up interview with Mr. Jeff Smith here at the building, and I was hired. So was hired as a general foreman and with the aspiration of being a superintendent or wherever fit this company needs,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever whatever piece of the puzzle,
Yeah.
you know, that I need to be, and I'm willing to do that. So, um, and I'm grateful for the opportunity so far. Things have been going great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's kind of you mentioned a few people, Jeff Smith and Howard Bernstein. It's kind of unique in that the 10-year history of this award, the Thomas George Memorial Community Service Award, it's always one nomination. It's always one company nominating someone. This was the first time ever it was a joint nomination. You had Howard, because earlier this year I sent a message out to the members saying, hey, we need nominations for safety awards, for young leaders, for labor champion. Howard picks up the phone, calls Jeff, and he said, hey, Marcus is a great guy, and I'd like to nominate him. And Jeff said, I'd like to join you, and both of us nominate him. So that was really unique and speaks volumes to the type of person you are. That's awesome.
And I'm humbled and touched by the nominations. For my former employer and my current employer to both nominate me, it just blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
And the thoughts and sentiments that they had for myself, and the character and the person that I aspire to be, and it's mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
So I'm truly honored to have an award named after Mr. George. So, and yeah, I can't believe it. So here we are talking,
very
getting
worthy.
to know each other.
Yes, very worthy. It goes to construction leader in the field and in the community, and you have a family you take care of in the community. Raise a family. A strong person on and off the job site, and very worthy of the award.
Thank you. Yeah. The leadership role, like I said, I really didn't ask for it, or like never thought that I would be in a position like this. But I do try to be a leader every day, and I try to respect people, and I think a good leader does that. There was a time at the children's hospital when we had so many apprentices working for us during that project. And I asked the apprentices, whoever wants to learn something, I said, I'm busy. I said, but I will spend an hour, 2 hours every day after work, if you're willing to stay here, to train you.
Awesome.
And teach you. And we ended up with, a good 5 or 6 apprentices. And then, next thing you know, another journeyman joined me in the classes. And it lasted. We taught them how to use a laser, just shortcuts, how to, anything you could think of, tricks of the trade sometimes that sometimes people aren't taught. And I don't like to see someone struggling doing something when there's a better way or a faster way. Or, as I'm learning in OSHA, the ergonomics, you don't want to hurt yourself doing something the hard way. So that lasted for probably a couple months.
Awesome.
Yeah. So cool. So I think my leadership kind of started then, and you never really know, being in a leadership role, what you're going to encounter. And I don't want to say who they were, but there's been people, approach me in the morning with tears in their eyes, going through stuff at with their family and stuff. And, it worked on me. And I'm like, Marcus, you can help people, even if it's just a prayer or a kind sentiment, or,
even just
thoughts
listening.
or listening. Exactly. And I think that's kind of where my life was taking me, and I didn't know where I'd end up. But like I said, I aspire to be, a better person every day. Tomorrow I want to be better than I was today. And, that comes from my family, first and foremost. I have beautiful, wonderful wife of 29 years. We just celebrated our
Awesome.
29-year
So cool.
anniversary.
There you go. Congrats.
Of my children, I wanted to be a good example to them. And, whether you like it or not, sometimes you're put in a role where, you got to be an example.
Yeah.
And so you could either be a good one or a bad one.
Yep. I agree.
And there's enough negativity and bad examples out there. I've never really been like a social media person. Only because I feel like too many people get on there and just say whatever they want.
Oh, yeah.
And
stuff they wouldn't say in person.
Yeah. I could never do it. And it's always just, social media just always had like a negative.
I get it.
Yeah. And I just started doing LinkedIn, and it was like, there's a opportunity for me to say something positive, whether it's once a month or whatever it is. And, and I do that. So, but you're not going to hear the negative stuff.
Good. I try that too. I try not to be negative either.
So there's so many reasons we could be that and be a negative person, but why, it'll consume you. Negativity can consume you, can be consuming,
and it's like a magnet. You get stuck to other negative people.
Well, and then you can rub off on people too, even if the person wasn't negative. You could
bring them down.
Yeah, exactly. Donnie Downer.
Yep.
Definitely don't want.
Or Debbie for the ladies. Debbie Downer. Yes.
Yeah. So, So that's a little bit about me.
Well, that is awesome. And again, congratulations. Very worthy of this award.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.